In the news tonight, Saudi coalition airstrikes continue to hit targets in Yemen in its fight against Houthi rebels, and Pakistan's parliament votes not to join the military intervention. Talks between the Syrian government and members of the opposition end in Moscow with no sign of progress towards ending the conflict. And a replica of the prehistoric Chauvet caves is inaugurated by the French president after 2.5 years of work. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. For the 16th straight day, Saudi coalition airstrikes hit Yemen, targeting weapons storage sites in Sana'a used by Houthi rebels. The air raids, which hit the defense ministry and other facilities, including Al-Hafa military camp, lasted for several hours. Meanwhile, a car bomb detonated outside a security building used by Houthi militiamen in central Yemen, killing at least 7 people and wounding dozens others. The city of Bayhan in Shabwa province witnessed heavy fighting between the Houthis and local militiamen, who have been supported by days of Saudi-led airstrikes. But despite the ongoing violence, the International Committee of the Red Cross has managed to bring in some much-needed medical aid. Here's more.
Emergency aid has finally arrived in Yemen. More than 16 tons of medicine, bandages, IV fluids, and surgical equipment, all from the International Committee of the Red Cross, represented here by Cedric Swizer.
It's what we call war wounded kit. Will allow to treat something like 1,000 war wounded people.
Yemen is embroiled in an increasingly bloody conflict between Shiite Houthi rebels and Sunni loyalists of President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi. But ongoing airstrikes by a Saudi-led coalition against the Houthis have raised the stakes and the death toll. The Red Cross says local hospitals are struggling to cope with the influx of wounded, while elsewhere in the country, non-combatants go without the basic necessities.
We have contact with all the parties here in Yemen involved in the conflict, and we got security guarantees to be able to distribute this assistance all over the country.
A second plane with aid is expected to arrive Saturday. For the Red Cross, it's help that's urgently needed.
Meanwhile, Pakistan's parliament has decided against military involvement in the Saudi-led coalition fighting Houthi rebels in Yemen after days of debate. Lawmakers voted unanimously in favor of a resolution that Pakistan should maintain neutrality in Yemen and called on all factions to resolve their differences peacefully. Pakistan's government has yet to comment publicly on the draft, but has said it would comply with Parliament's decision. Saudi Arabia had asked Pakistan to contribute ships, aircraft and troops to a military campaign it has launched against the Houthi rebels. Daesh terrorist group has bolstered its forces north of Aleppo, Syria's second largest city, where it is attacking rivals as part of a broader push beyond its eastern strongholds. The group has in recent weeks conducted a series of attacks in western areas of Syria, including state-held territory, staging a major advance into Damascus, where it is battling for control of the Yarmouk refugee camp. A rebel commander with fighters in the area said Daesh had called in reinforcements and increased their presence. Aleppo itself remains divided between an area held by the government and another held by an array of insurgent groups. The latest drive follows attacks by Daesh further south in government-held areas, including Hama province, where last week the group massacred some 40 people and are still holding some 50 others hostage. And aid made its way to the Yarmouk refugee camp, home to the largest Palestinian community in Syria. People queued to receive help from Red Crescent staff. According to the European Commission, it has already released immediate emergency funding of more than €2 million to UNRWA's operation in Syria. The specific focus of the operation will be on Yarmouk, Idlib, Daraa and Aleppo. The camp now houses nearly 18,000 people, with around 2,000 evacuated since the latest round of attacks by Daesh terrorist group to gain control of the camp. Meanwhile, talks between representatives of the Syrian government and some mainstream members of the opposition ended in Moscow with no sign of progress towards ending the 4-year conflict. The second such talks in the Russian capital were marred by friction among the opposition delegates and was boycotted by the Syrian National Coalition. The Russian mediator of the meeting, Vitaly Nomkin, said the parties agreed on a document assessing the political situation in the country, but then failed to reach accord on confidence-building measures. Syrian analysts, however, noted that the Moscow meeting has broken the deadlock between the Syrian government and the opposition and provided a channel for the two sides to exchange views.
We found a common vision of the first paragraph. We put forward the second document consisting of 12 paragraphs of the second issue in our agenda on uniting our vision of fighting terrorism, and we highlighted it during the discussion. But because of the lack of the time, we were not able to work out common approaches, and the decision was made to postpone discussion on the fight against terrorism till the next meeting.
It seems to me now there is a pause. Now there will be a period of studying of experiences and results of the second meeting and familiarizing of those who are connected to this issue and all parties interested with the results of this meeting.
In Iraq, Daesh terrorists launched a heavy attack on government-held territory in Anbar province since late yesterday, killing 25 Iraqi police officers and soldiers and then executing 15 family members of local police officers. The terrorists overran large parts of the town of Al-Bufaraj, north of the provincial capital Ramadi overnight, deploying vehicle and suicide bombs to tear through Iraqi government lines before attacking on foot. A police source in Ramadi said the insurgents had taken half of the Al-Bufaraj area, while a provincial council member said it had been overrun completely. And in the capital, Baghdad, 2 bombs went off this morning. One was a suicide bomber who targeted the restaurant in the northern part of the city, killing at least 7 people and wounding 16. The other attack involved a bomb planted in a parked car in the Karada neighborhood that killed 5 and injured 12. Israeli troops killed a 30-year-old Palestinian and wounded several others in the occupied West Bank during a funeral of a man recently released from an Israeli jail. The funeral at Beit Omar near Hebron turned violent after angry Palestinians accused Israelis of the death of Ja'far Awad for neglecting his health problems while in prison. Occupation forces opened fire at the crowd, killing Ja'far's cousin, alleging they had feared for their lives as protesters threw rocks and petrol bombs at them. But witnesses and medical officials said Israeli troops fired both live and rubber bullets. The leader of Britain's opposition Labour Party said he favoured recognizing Palestine as a state if such a move would help bring about a broader peace deal in the Middle East. Ed Miliband made the remarks in an interview on whether Britain would recognize Palestine in the first year or two of his premiership if Labour wins national elections on May 7th. Miliband said Labour backed a symbolic vote about the principle of recognition held last year, adding that the decision about when recognition would take place was dependent on how it would constructively help negotiations. Ireland, France and Italy have also held parliamentary votes on the status of Palestine in recent months, while Sweden has gone further by officially recognizing Palestine. Orthodox Christians in Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip marked Good Friday, an annual celebration that attracts thousands of pilgrims from around the world. Carrying wooden crosses and singing hymns, Christians walked in a procession along the Via Dolorosa in the Old City of Jerusalem, retracing the route that Jesus Christ took to his crucifixion. Along the route there are the 14 stations of the cross before worshippers reach the Holy Sepulchre Church where Jesus was buried, before rising from the dead 3 days later. And in the Gaza Strip, worshippers also attended Mass for Good Friday.
This is very special for me because I'm an Orthodox Christian and I have come from the United States. All my life I wanted to come to the Holy Land, and I have an opportunity to come this year, and so I'm very emotional about being in the actual holy location of Christ's footsteps and suffering and crucifixion and resurrection.
Hillary Clinton will announce her second run for the presidency on Sunday. The announcement will mark Clinton's return to the campaign trail 7 years after losing the Democratic Party nomination in 2008 to Barack Obama. She is likely to make her intentions known through a social media announcement, followed by campaign travel. Clinton has been a high-profile figure in American politics for more than 2 decades, since her husband, Bill Clinton, won the presidency in 1992.
Thank you for your performance last night. Thank you so much.
Bizarre weather in the United States this year. Destructive tornadoes tore through parts of Iowa, Illinois, and Ohio in what forecasters warned is a particularly dangerous situation. At least 1 person was killed in Fairdale, Illinois, and 7 others injured. The storm also closed down roads and leveled some houses and businesses. The severe weather sweeping across the Midwest has forced the cancellation of about 735 flights at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. To the East Coast, where Los Angeles launched a Save the Drop campaign seeking to rally residents of California behind water-saving measures in the face of a devastating multi-year drought. California is entering its 4th year of a severe drought that has left mountain snowpack, which generally provides about 1/3 of the state's water, at its lowest level record, and forced farmers to fallow thousands of acres of cropland. After 2.5 years' work involving 35 companies, hundreds of workers, and a budget of 55 million euros, a replica of the famous prehistoric site, the Chauvet Caves, was inaugurated by French President François Hollande today. Discovered in 1994, the Chauvet Caves are the world's oldest known caves, decorated by humans, with about 1,000 paintings, estimated to date back some 36,000 years. The replica was built in Vallon-Pont d'Arc in southeast France, a couple of kilometers from the original location. Modern humans will never get to see the original cave's masterpieces because it is sealed off, but the 3,500 square meter replica is guaranteed to transport all its visitors to the Stone Age. The Chauvet Caves were placed on UNESCO's World Heritage List in 2014. One month after Apple launched its long-awaited watch, potential buyers got a first glimpse at the new gadget before the timepieces become available in stores. Die-hard Apple fans queued outside the tech giant stores in New York, London, Paris, Berlin, Tokyo, Beijing, and Sydney to try out the watch before placing their orders. From April 24, consumers will be able to buy the watch online or by appointment in shops. Models include yellow or rose gold versions with sapphire faces. Based on recent customer interest at its stores, Apple expects demand for the watch, which allows users to check email, listen to music, and make phone calls when paired with an iPhone, to exceed availability at launch.
Nicht so ganz genau, wie ich hier irgendwas mache.
We begin with the Marathon des Sables in Morocco, where 1,200 runners set off to run the fifth and final leg. Rashid al-Morabiti of Morocco continued his perfect race to run the 42.2 kilometers in a time of 3 hours, 22 minutes and 59 seconds. Second was Abdel Qadir al-Muaziz, also of Morocco, with compatriot Aziz al-Aqad third. Tomorrow, the runners will compete in an 11.5 kilometers Solidarity UNICEF leg, which is for charity and does not affect their scores, traversing the Merzouqa dunes, Morocco's highest and finest. Argentine soccer legend Diego Maradona said he hopes FIFA President Sepp Blatter will be replaced soon. Maradona made the remarks in Bogota, where he will play in a match to support the peace process in Colombia. He said he was confident that FIFA will change with the departure of Blatter as president. Maradona, who led Argentina to win the World Cup in 1986, reiterated his support for His Royal Highness Prince Ali ibn al-Hussein, who is one of several rivals for the presidency of FIFA.
There is no need to do what Blatter does, to believe you are the almighty in soccer when you haven't ever even kicked a ball. So I'm going to guide the prince. I think we have many chances of kicking Blatter in the backside, no doubt.
And finally, cold and cloudy tonight in most parts of the country, with a chance for light rains in the northern and central regions. Tomorrow, a drop in temperature is expected, bringing with it more scattered showers accompanied by thunder. Winds will be southwesterly moderate to brisk, blowing dust in the southern and eastern areas. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect a relatively cool night and fair day tomorrow, with northerly moderate winds and slightly choppy seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Saudi coalition airstrikes continue to hit targets in Yemen in its fight against Houthi rebels, and Pakistan's parliament votes not to join the military intervention. Talks between the Syrian government and members of the opposition end in Moscow with no sign of progress towards ending the conflict. And a replica of the prehistoric Chauvet caves is inaugurated by the French president after 2.5 years of work. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.